Alright, disclaimer. This is a personal YouTube channel. Any views or opinions represented in this YouTube channel are personal and solely belong to me as the owner and do not represent those people, organizations, or institutions that I or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or any individual. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for attending our first class session with our research class. I understand that this is not our class schedule, but as early as we can, I want to meet everyone so we can talk about how our research class will be run all throughout the semester and also on the next semester, because next semester, Research 2 will be offered, in which most of you, or I should say all of you, should be able to enroll in. There is a possibility that if you will not have a concrete requirements for Research 1, there's a possibility that you will be dropped or get a passing grade or an INC. Later on, I will explain to you what is the general requirements in passing Research 1. We have experienced many times, I'd say, since I was in undergrad, in which, as you all know, I took the same program. It has been a problem ever since, and I'm also experiencing it now as the subject professor of the research, that even if the professor is very considerate and other faculty members are very considerate to consider a student for her or him to enroll to the next research class, there are still cases that nothing sort of, or the student is not making an effort to do his or her requirements on the Research 1 class. Based on those experiences, we have learned our lesson. There was suggestions to me last semester that if the student really has no proposal at all, he or she will not be given for the Research 2 subject. However, I said and give my word that to just give them the Research 2 subject, because I assured the evaluator and the enrolling teacher of the said section or of the said class, I give her my word that that student that has no grade yet for Research 1 will be able to have the necessary requirements for the Research 1. So for the meantime, just give him or her the Research 2 subject later on to be able to graduate. However, as what other faculties have been telling me, those students who did not do their requirements for Research 1 and then after Research 2, still nothing happened, in which it always ended up, them hanging around instead of making a decision starting with the Research 1. So this time, later on, you will know what are the necessary requirements for Research 1, in which, as early as now, I would like to tell anybody that if you will not have that requirement, you will not be given the Research 2 subject, which is next semester. All right. Okay, so let's go now to our PowerPoint presentation. So again, as I said earlier, this is thesis writing class, or actually this is a research class. So we have two research subjects, Research 1, which is this semester, the one you enrolled to, and Research 2, which is next semester, in which it's actually the continuation of your Research 1. So today, we will be talking about the class policies and lecture topics for this class. And at the same time, we will also talk about the requirements. I know you know this already. My name is Pearl Afilati Bicarnice. Currently, I am Assistant Professor to Eastern Visayas State University. I took the same program as yours last 2011. And then right after college, I went to Visayas State University, where I took my Master of Science in Soil Science, minor in Tropical Ecology. I graduated after 2 years from 2011 to 2013. And at the same time, I was enjoying scholarship with the DOST AST HRDP, in which after a few years, I went to UP Los Baños. I think that was 2016 or 2015. I took Doctor of Philosophy in Environmental Science. My minor is botany. I was supposed to get my minor in soil science, but so I decided to go for botany. I was actually proceeding to do a double minor for soil science and botany, but I don't know, I don't want to take another comprehensive exam for soil science, so I just decided to go for botany as the minor. I graduated last December 2019. Our graduation was June 2020, supposedly, but it did not happen because of the pandemic. I was a CHED Faculty Development Program 2 scholar also, as I have been advertising ever since I did my PhD dissertation and for the State University under the Fulbright Scholarship. This is actually as a PhD visiting researcher. So again, if you are interested to all these scholarships, all you have to do is Google them. Just Google Fulbright, just Google DOST, DRP scholarship. Or there is actually a lot of scholarships also for undergrads. I think DOST is offering a scholarship for that. My consultation hours is usually 1 hour before and 1 hour after the class sessions. But since last semester or a year ago, there are no face-to-face classes. Hence, if you want to set an appointment, all you have to do is email me so we can talk about your issues or anything about your thesis. As you all know, this is my email address. So let's go now to the course description. The course description of Research 1 and 2 is actually the same. So the course description is independent, active research to be conducted under the guidance of the senior faculty advisor or mentor. The topic may be basic, applied, or theoretical in nature. So you cannot actually do your undergrad thesis. Actually, you cannot even do your master's thesis or PhD thesis without an advisor. There should always be an advisor. As you can read, there is a statement here that says, guidance of a senior faculty advisor or mentor, which means your advisor should be a senior faculty. So how do we define senior faculty? We always consider senior as anybody that is older, right? I don't know, but the way I ever since when I read as senior faculty, it's always refers to anybody that is quite old or senior. But anyway, when you say senior faculty, that faculty should be permanent and tenured. Okay, so we have few learning outcomes. We have 6 learning outcomes. The 6 learning outcomes are actually the same for the next semester for your research too. First learning outcome is to integrate and apply learnings from previous courses. One of the reasons why the thesis subject is on your 4th year, or in your case, your research 1 is on your 3rd year, it's because all the learnings that you've learned from your 1st year to 3rd year will be applied and will be used when you do your thesis. So you will have a background on ecosystem, you will have a background on ecology, you will have a background on land use planning, environmental chemistry, EIA, and all those subjects, all those core, general, and not so major subjects will all still be used for doing your research or your thesis. Next learning outcome is survey current scientific literatures, in which that is with your resource econ. I ask everyone that your scientific literature or scientific article should be 10 years back and not 20 years back. So that since 2021 yun na, pwede pa, but the most appropriate one should be 2021. So now to the next learning outcome. Conduct independent study of a particular topic. This might not be quite possible. This might not be quite possible for a semester for you to be able to conduct independent research, independent study, but it is expected that after your research 2 or during your research 2, this learning outcome will be satisfied. Before we move on to the next learning outcome, let me share to you my experience. When I did my master's in Visayas State University with my MS Soil Science, in every graduate course, in every graduate subject, one of the major requirement is an independent study. Swerte kon hausa nga subject, independent study lang ang ginaaro. Most of the professors there, especially kung MS student ka na, would require the class to have an independent study and to have a group study. So may da ka na independent study, may da ka pa group study. So imagine, in a span of 5 months, you have to produce or you have to make a study, you have to propose, you have to present your proposal, it has to be approved, you have to conduct your experiment, and then write the whole results with the conclusion and present it to the class in one subject. On our case, since for regular term, the maximum or the regular number of units for MS students is 12 units, in which that equates to 4 subjects. So imagine, with your 4 subjects, each professor will require you for an independent research and a group research. I don't know how it happened. Maybe that's one of the reasons why during my MS I was so slim. I was only 54 kilos that time. It's actually because of the requirements that they usually require, which is independent research and a group research. So that time, every semester, I'm always thumped up with work and with experiments and writing all those researches, because I will just be lucky if there are 4 independent research that we have to conduct and 4 group research. We will be lucky. So next question is, how did we do it, or how did I did it? We were able to do it because, as we all know, there is always a limitation or scope of limitations in our study. We design our study that it will be conducted for only the span of 1 semester. That is why in research, we always have so-called reduction or it's always in deductive. When I say deductive, we cannot study the whole science, or else, I don't know if 1 left is enough to study the whole science. That is why we have to be specific into our objectives and into our limitations as to what is the scope of our study. So in our case before, we designed an experiment that would last for only a few weeks. So we have time to propose, we have time that our advisor or our professor will approve, and then if it's approved, the study is designed that would last only for a month or only for a few weeks. But still, it's still a good experiment and it's still worth to publish. One of the independent research I did during my MS, I was able to publish 2 papers which are not part actually of my MS thesis, but just an independent research. So it's all about, I should say, designing your study, and it's all about putting limitations to your study for you to be able to conduct an independent research in a span of a sem or in a span of 1 year. That is why, so many things or so many circumstances could happen in the span of 1 semester or 2 semesters, since you have the research too. But since I experienced it and we were able to do it, some of most or actually all of our classmates were be able to do it. It's because it's all about designing and with the help of your thesis advisor with your study. And again, doing it in a span of 1 sem or 2 semesters is very doable. The work is always at the end of the student. If you will keep working on it, then you will be able to do it. But if you will not keep working on it, nothing will happen. Advisors are there to advise. If you are going to consult them, they will give you an advice. But if you will not ask for an advice, if you will not consult with them, then therefore, man nila advice kung diri ka mo ma-consult. So there should always be a good communication, and there should always be a consultation. Not every day, of course. Don't do that. Don't do it every day. Do it every time you have a question and every time you have necessary updates, or if you have questions na diri ka nakakasulbad. Before you ask your advisor about anything about your study, be sure first that you did all possible ways para ma-answeran mo ano mo pakiana. Dapat nag-Google ka na, nag-research ka na before ka magpakanat imong advisor. Or else, manginyak man ka imong advisor nga anay daw, pagbasa daw la anay para ka mabaro before you asking me about it. So you have to do always. You have to do all means, tanan na ways na pwede nimo buhaton, tanan na research na pwede mo research, tanan na article na pwede mo basahon, basahala anay before making a consult to your advisor. Okay. Next, learning outcome. Evaluate and interpret and synthesize data and information. So you should be able to evaluate your results, you should be able to interpret your results, and you should be able to synthesize your data to have a sense, or for you to have a sense of your data, for you to integrate for example, you have a correlational data, you have to correlate this variable to another variable. So you have to synthesize if there is a correlation between the two. Next learning outcome is write a scientific document. That is why you have a thesis manuscript, because you should be able to write a scientific document. That is why in Research 1, everybody is required to submit an individual proposal. Individual proposal. Though when it comes to groupings, sadly, groupings are not encouraged. And I am telling everybody that there will be no thesis groupings. But there are, or there is only thesis partners. It has been experienced many times that if there are only, if there are a lot of members in a group, and even you as a student, don't tell me you never ever experienced this. Di ba, basta grupo nga ni, more than ko na nga ni ang grupo, more than two na nga ni ang grupo, bisan tulo, sa tulo na adjud, may da talaga ito usa, may da talaga ito usa na there is always this one student who will not contribute much. But there is always the student na an usa nga student amo talaga ito iya ang pinakadako nga contribution ha grupo, in which usually pagdamo nga ni or more than two na nga ni ang grupo, usa na la itot nagbubuhat, usa na la itot nagdadarahan bugos nga grupo para magpadayon ini nga ira, para magpadayon ni tiragin ta trabaho. So that's why I'm telling everybody as early as now that there will be no thesis groupings. There will only be thesis partners. And the decision for that as to who will be your thesis partners will be decided later on. As early as now or as of now, let's focus first on your proposal. Let's make first your proposal. So the fourth year, the BSES fourth year now, I was also the one handling the research. It was the first time that I handled the research class. We were actually in a very good track, I should say. With the many research class that happened before, I'm not comparing or anything, but I'd say I was proud because we were actually in advanced state. I should say we were in an advanced state. Why? Because 6 research proposals in which they were only in partners, in 6 research proposals, they were able to conduct their pre-orals. They were able to have an approved thesis proposal and pre-orals last January 2020. 2020 or 2019? I think 2020 if I'm not mistaken. As we all know, the class ended December, but all the they were actually ready to have the pre-orals early December because there were, few revisions from other faculty and panel members. So when you do your pre-orals in the coming months, not after na ma-approve niyo proposal, pre-orals na yun, no. It should be sent first to the panel members, and then they will have a comment to your paper, and then if they will approve that this is ready for pre-orals, then you will do your pre-orals. I think early December, they were ready to conduct their pre-orals, but all the faculty members and the panel members, I should say, of their thesis were busy because, December is the ending of the semester. All faculties were busy with their grades and other requirements for clearance. So that's why we opted to do the pre-orals on the first week of January, in which it did really happen. We did our pre-orals, the 6 partners, 6 proposals were able to presented first week of January 2019, or 2020, I should say. And after that, I was actually very excited to conduct, of course, to revise based on comments and to conduct the research. But sadly, the pandemic happened, in which I think March was the start. March was the month that we started with our community quarantine. So as we all know, everything was on pause. Like everything was on pause. Because of what happened, of course, the students also had a pause on their thesis. Iba, waray na makag-communicate, waray na makag-edit, and blah, blah, blah. And so many things happened in between because of the pandemic. That is why now, what you've heard with Ms. during our resource economics class, it would be very helpful if you will be able to find a study or you will be able to find a research problem doable with the current pandemic. So you have to think of a study na kaya niyo buhaton ha iyong mga balay, kaya niyo buhaton in your towns or in your barangays without even going outside your town and barangays. Though right now, travel is already, free travel, quote unquote, is already okay, I would still not advise anyone to go somewhere else and have their research study. I would still suggest for you to find your research problems, for you to find your research interest that is doable in your area. Again, I would like to emphasize that in this semester in Research 1, everyone are required to have a research proposal. All right, the last learning outcome is practice responsible conduct of research to include safety, ethics, and respect for intellectual property. So for example, if you will be dealing with examples of uric acid or any acids or any activities that your safety will not be secured. So we have to be, responsible for this, and we have to take precautionary measures. When it comes to ethics, for example, if we are going to study that would involve animals or any kind of living things, we have to secure a certificate of, I forgot the term, but I think it's with DA, that for example for a mice, example mag-study ka in anything that would involve mice or any animals, I think you have to secure from Department of Agriculture or Department of or DNR for I think it's under wildlife. I'm not quite sure, but there is always an ethical, or there should always be a certificate in which ethics is being considered in your study. And of course, respect for intellectual property. That is why everybody or everyone, or not everybody or everyone, but what we should do if we do not own the document, or if we do not own the thought, we have to cite. Every time we have to cite. That is also why when we do our scientific writing, we always have citations and references. Because since we do not own that idea, we do not own the results, we have to cite every time. At the same time, if it is not yours, then you have to cite it. You have to acknowledge the author. Also, that's also one of the reasons why similarity index or duplication percentage is also being considered, because it means that if your duplication or similarity index is quite high, therefore, you are actually not respecting the intellectual property work of other people. It means you are plagiarizing or copy pasting their work, in which still, again, you have to cite. That is why citations, again, are very important. All right, let's do a self-check. So can we satisfy our learning outcome with the following lecture topics?